Welcome back for our next panel, Zero Trust Identity for Security Architectures, moderated by Popa, Director of Security Support Engineering, Cloud Protection Global Lead, Microsoft.
You forgot first of his name.
You have a long way.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the organizers, first of all, because they give us a very big vote of confidence, which is putting us between you and lunch. But look, this talk is going to be about those of you that, maybe let's do a show of hands. Who in the room has heard the phrase, we don't need to secure this endpoint, it's in our corporate network? Huh? Maybe no one? Or we don't need to secure this traffic, it's behind our next-gen firewall, right? This is pretty much what we're talking about here in Zero Trust. I promised my panel colleagues that I'm not going to keep them in. We can do this. I promised my panel colleagues that I'm not going to talk too much. So without further ado, I would like to ask them to introduce themselves. Over to you.
I'm speaking to today on behalf of Constitute Alliance from the chapter. Everybody could be public, it's on LinkedIn profile, and I trust that our colleagues will make you to enjoy this meeting.
So, hi everybody. I'm Yugo, and I'm the president of the CISA Council. This is the Association of IT in Romania. I've been for more than 30 years selling companies. And so I'm in cybersecurity and IT since more than 35 years or something. I'm really happy to bring this environment. It's for the first time that it's a very great honor to go to it. And I'm very happy to bring our panelists today to discuss a very interesting topic. So I'm acting as a consultant in the industry, and thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Cazaceanu. I'm part of the German branch of Sophos technology. I'm working in a global team of specialists that basically focus on emergencies and response and various services for our customers. I'm happy to be here for you today.
Good afternoon. My name is George Chereches. I head up the solution engineering team at OPSWAT. It's a pleasure being in such a great company and talking about a very juicy subject, I would say. So I'm looking forward to the conversation in the next following hour. And I want to encourage everyone to challenge us, ask questions, and have a meaningful conversation about Zero Trust. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Seucan. I came from the National Police. So I'm a police officer who will try to give you some advices. And yes, we are among the ones who say trust nothing, verify everything, but trust 100% the police recommendation. So I represent the Crime Research and Prevention Institute, and this is our task to raise awareness. And I think this will be a very fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Okay, so with that being done, I think my first question, just to even the scales, is how would you define a good adoption of Zero Trust and identity first? And I'm looking at you for that question.
I can verify. First of all, like an audit, and after audit, we establish these four structures, is alignment with the whole compliance, European and international compliance. After this, we'll talk about the gaps that could have to cover. It's a must. It's not should be. It's in the infrastructure, in the only one, we collect more and more and more grants. But anyhow, Australia is globally represented here. Australia is manager and globally, so just launch artificial intelligence that maps artificial intelligence on the European area and provide certifications for CISA, which means certification, globally accepted, and the procedure, not the first steps, but how to conclude to build this interest potentially. Most people I think nothing new, just want to try to present a lot more. Cybersecurity is not starting with people, it's not started with data, it's not started with information, it's not started with algorithms. It started with the knock on the gate in the front of the company building, and it's starting with providers. They must respect the same rules and must be compliance. But about data, Raluca, what do you think about where our data? Direct questions, if you can tell us something about your 25 report, please.
Well, depends. Depends if your data is in the safe environment or as we speak, trade by cyber criminals.
Which means safe environment.
I think you will be the one who will say more on this, but for me, it's to recommend you all to read something very useful, in my opinion. It's produced every year, and it's a very good analytical support. It's called ICTA 2025 for this year. You can find it on the Europol website. And I liked the name that they gave this year report. It's called Steal, Deal, and Repeat. Steal the data, deal it, and then repeat. So this is what the cyber criminals are doing. The data became the main commodities for the criminals.
It's the crown, actually. But we have some companies here for getting OPSWAT. Is that correct? Yes.
So in terms of securing data, obviously it's a much bigger topic. I think we have to look at this from different angles. One is data coming to the network, and obviously that's a big attack surface. Data at rest, and how we secure data at rest, and implementing best practices. I think in the industry, the misconception is that once you scan the data, before it gets to the network at the perimeter level, then it's safe to use throughout the life cycle of that data. Best practices would be continuous rescanning of the whole data set, making sure that the backups are safe for restoring, making sure that the backups don't live in the same network segment. And obviously, stealing data and exfiltration can be prevented by a very good perimeter solution in detecting those reverse shells. And obviously adding traditional solutions like DLP solutions to detect data going out. I don't want to make it sound really simple. I'm aware, we live in a world where networks are becoming more complex. Plenty of customers still want hybrid networks on-prem and cloud, and the data is everywhere, from users' devices to storage solutions. But I think overall we have the technologies. What we're lacking is a meaningful integration of those technologies in a proper cybersecurity framework that ends up increasing the security posture of the organization.
Let me ask something a bit more controversial. Is perimeter security dead? I mean, is the internet as we know it a thing of the past?
It's a very good one. I think it's it's a matter of perspective. I wouldn't say it's bad. Perimeter security still exists, especially talking before the panel with some of you around NIS2 regulation that looks at critical national infrastructure that obviously has a lesser cloud adoption. We do see a trend in adopting cloud technologies as well. So I would say perimeter network or traditional network is just evolving. It still exists, but it's fundamentally changing. In terms of the zero trust, to put this into the zero trust concept, the network just becomes a transport layer at this point for data, mainly, right? And the perimeter are the users, the identity of the users, and the devices the users use to access data in the network.
Just in exercise and paradigm, artificial intelligence versus security versus data versus cloud, how to change our behavior, human behavior, company behavior, how fast we adapt ourselves according to artificial intelligence European Act, actually. And we think about with whole regulation in the proper manner, in the proper time, or it will be exposed in front of artificial intelligence. What I'm telling this because modules of artificial intelligence are launched on the market. They are not checked in this very moment by nobody, by no any national or international organization to be approved. If you have a like Microsoft, has many plenty of security, cybersecurity tools and services and products, but each of these products is checked before to be launched and is certified that is compliance. Okay? And from the perspective of your counsel, which is and then Yugo?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you very much. So, first of all, we have this panelist about zero trust, and I think we have to clarify first what I have zero trust. So, honestly, as it has been defined, I checked it this morning on ChatGPT, and they said, zero trust is, first of all, nothing about technology. So, there's no product, there's no services, right? It's a strategy. And I was wondering, what is something new on this new strategy, zero trust? Zero trust is not something that isn't a strategy that appeared yesterday or today. It's like artificial intelligence who appeared in 1950 or so. So we are discussing about zero trust since at least 10 years ago, but actually it's the same thing we discussed 30 years ago. Now, what's the particularity of the zero trust? The zero trust, as my colleague George mentioned, is to focus not only on the outside perimeter, not only the firewalls to the gate, but to think that on the inside network, like as a potential threat. So basically, the zero trust means that all the enemies are not on the outside world, but they are into the inside world. And let me give you a flavor that I had prior to on my early stages at the end of the 90s. And I realized that being a security administrator into a network, I had access to all the data, right? Because you all know that Microsoft engineer, even if you have the full rights into the network, you got the possibility to check your computer, to check the VIP's computers, the salaries, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So at that point in time, I put myself the following question. If I can do that, that means that my colleagues can do that as well. If I can do that and I can cover my trails, it means that I got access and somebody has to monitor these kind of activities. Now, a very funny story that actually since Sarbanes-Oxley Act appeared, they addressed this issue with least privileged. So basically, you have to put under control your administrators and to limit their access into the network and the access to be handed to the platform by
is never trust, always verify. Sorry, never trust, always verify users, data, and systems. It also means that you have to assign least privileges. This is the second principle. And the third principle we can discuss it also here, is assume bridge. Now, assuming bridge means to understand that your colleague, well, actually to understand that everybody is a potential enemy. There's a potential threat, a direct threat, an employee which is, not very satisfied and he gave access to for an individual malicious user, or simply he's a malicious, a big lie without knowledge, right? So threat, think if you are a sysadmin or if you are a business owner, think on the fact that everybody inside your company is a potential threat. Meaningless, with win or not. So this is zero trust at the end. And you've got the possibilities to contain and to following the zero trust principle, never trust, always verify, actually means zero trust, and you have to take all the necessary measures having this in mind. And just one final thought. Honestly, again, zero trust is a strategy, it's a principle, but it was the same 30 years ago, because at the end of the day, zero trust is applying the best practices. And what are the best practices, basically? Are the security frameworks. No matter if it is a COVID from Seucan or this is 27 years ago, it's the same. Okay, nothing has been changed. But yes, indeed, now the philosophy is to think more than 30 years ago that you've got the attackers inside. You've got the enemy is inside. Is there answer your question? So, it's okay, my thinking that it's always it's not about philosophia, from the Greek language, philosophia. Philosophia, I agree, it's a concept, but it's coming to common sense. Common sense is the base of the zero trust of strategy, but in this context, resilience, please, Dragos, in the context of zero trust, how do you see it?
I think resilience, zero trust basically enables resilience, taking things a bit further from the traditional flat network topology. But in a sense, because we're not familiar with defaults, that offers certain advantages, one of them being greater visibility, but also from an incident response perspective, the ability to intervene and stop the breach in its tracks. Even if the attacker isn't solid, we do see it, and we can limit that lateral movement, but it's always the problematic aspect for the attacker establishing a foothold in the infrastructure and being able to gain or to move on to his objectives, basically, which maybe is a filtration, maybe ransomware, maybe something else. I think in that direction, zero trust definitely helps secure the environment.
Thanks for that, and I think we're all convinced around this particular table that we kind of need to do that if we're not doing it already. I'm curious, where do you start? Like, these are the 90s, again, as someone said yesterday. Assume we have nothing, and maybe I'm not going to judge you for that, but where do you start? You have a company from the 90s, how do you go about doing zero trust identifiers? I agree with all my colleagues on that. It's a philosophy, it's a change in mindset. Zero trust is just a set of technologies in the end that help companies implement best practices across the board, right? It cannot happen overnight, and especially in the critical national infrastructure space, it's going to be a lot harder.
right? Changing the mindset is what we need to do first. Moving from, I have this VPN, moving to a next-gen VPN, are more secure, but I still run a flat network behind that VPN firewall. So the lack of adoption is probably due to the complexity of the networks, but it's probably also to do with the reluctance businesses have in implementing such a disruptive change, because that affects every part of the business, right? From the end user experience to business applications to the whole networking team to the cybersecurity team and so on. So what we can do is take baby steps towards that. It does help that cloud technologies enable zero trust implementation in a much easier way than traditional networks. The fact that we see more and more those hybrid type of networks, the traditional networks tend to gravitate and implement the best practices seen in the cloud piece, essentially. So on top of that, you need the specialists, right? And we all hear at every conference almost the lack of workforce, the lack of specialized cybersecurity professionals. And I'm glad to see that many young people at this conference. That shows interest. It's a fantastic industry to be in. It's very challenging. There's lots to do. And I think it's a collective effort in the end. Trying to educate the workforce that would eventually help implement a zero trust philosophy and the set of technologies needed to support that.
Thank you. Not to jump from one thing to another, but in today's world, where does law enforcement come in? Either on the regulation or what comes afterwards?
I want to say it's like, imagine now living online and living offline. If in offline we are protecting our house, so we are, I don't know, firstly building the gates and the doors and the multiple lockers. We have to do the same in online world. Actually, we are living now in online, so we have to take the same measure as we take in offline for the online. If for our offline life we are using security for the gates, for the doors, for the windows, we have to do the same things for the online. Because it's the criminals are exploiting not only the human vulnerabilities, but exploiting the system vulnerabilities. And we have to have in mind that all the time, if we are relying only on technology, maybe there will be breaches, but a human intervention could solve something. If you are relying only on the human intervention, maybe we are not fast enough for the criminals, the way we are thinking. So for me, and what we are saying all the time when we are having these campaigns for the raise a warning on the possibility to be a victim of the fraud. It doesn't matter if you are a child, it doesn't matter if you are a common person, it doesn't matter if you are a company. The security steps are the same. Actually, we have to be aware that we need to take some measures. Because the criminals are evolving, and we need to be fast enough to contract what we are thinking.
Thank you for letting me. Yes. I just came in my mind because the kind of imagination exercises. We implemented the trust procedures, trust concepts, strategy in the company, and you pass on this. try to ensure to sign an insurance contract, yes, with the insurance company regarding your data. But how do you record your information data in the accounting system? Your internet passive or active? Because George's company, I don't know, it could explode because of some algorithms that are developed in a really short time with Oxford guys of Yugo and Microsoft. And the price of selling data rising is still valid that the contract signed before. I don't know. But this is not this that I express imagination. Who should be in charge to make the first assessment before to decide the insurance contract? I suppose that somebody from the inside from the insurance company. Even so, even after the whole recommendation were implemented, the risk appears and the risk is produced and data are lost. Who should make, in your opinion, who should make the second assessment after the risk is produced? This is one question. I have a personal opinion, but I want to find somebody in this room who should establish the guilty, because it will be the same person who made the first assessment from inside the insurance company. I think it's not quite okay. That's somebody. George, please.
I just have a comment going back to technology. Common engineers always try to gravitate that way.
Because insurance is resilience, it's part of resilience strategy.
Definitely so. We apply a concept, a philosophy in cybersecurity that's called defense in depth, right? That talks about multiple layers of the same technology, same solution to look at this same problem from different angles, right? So to your point, Edge, I'm the same person, right? We always need multiple perspectives on that topic.
It's conflict of interest to be the same person, to make the second assessment.
I agree, maybe you're probably a lot more experienced in auditing and GRC in general, so your opinion is probably very valid for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let me bring you another perspective into this zero trust and answer sort of the auditing part, but because I would like to qualify again and emphasize again that zero trust is nothing something, it's not at all something new. And one of the things that this zero trust recommended is never trust, always verify data, systems, and people. And the point is, how do you know that you have the entire list of the assets under your control? You don't know. And this is a simple question, and probably the audience will say, obviously, I know all the assets are. But really, so you know all the servers, all the Wi-Fi systems, all the networking equipment, all the data into the cloud. Do you know what the data is including? So first thing that has to be performed in a zero trust strategy is to identify your assets. But this is again something that has been recommended 30 years ago. And people might look at this thing as a very odd question, but this is the reality. We have papers that are spread geographically to the entire country or even the entire globe, and you have no idea if in your premises, into your building, you have full control of your assets. I work for some companies that sold some assets like micro plants, and they recall that
systems, and we understood after half a year that we forgot to unplug our systems. Right? And those kind of stories are not in Romania but almost everywhere. So first thing comes with the legacy that are going to protect. So zero trust is bringing visibility because it forces you to identify answers. Micro-segmentation. If you search the tools, what is zero trust? Sometimes micro-segmentation. Is anybody here who can tell me what is the benefit of segmenting your network? Does anybody know what it is? Okay, there's a hand over there. No, you don't.
Avoiding lateral movement, was that?
Avoiding lateral movement, yeah. 30 years ago, we did the segmentation because we didn't want to have such a big noise into the network and to avoid the net peers protocol to send the broadcast over the network. So this is a basic stuff. Any network starts with segmenting your network. But guess what? You can come today, you can identify today companies in Romania that are 100 million euros companies that they have their 300 computers into the same local area network, sometimes including the backup system into the same local area network. Now, 30 years ago, we said that the network should be segmented because to avoid the noise. Now we are saying we have to segment it because we need to avoid the lateral movement. And yes, this is a reality because if the internal network is a threat, it's a war camp, it means that you need to segment in order, in the situation that an attacker is inside your premises, then you can avoid, you can isolate it and contain it into that segment. And by the way, IBM, what says IBM? 9 months it took in an average for a company to identify that they have an intruder into their network. Now, micro-segmentation, this is a clear recommendation for the companies, right? If you're going into a hydro plant or a power plant or a coal plant or whatever scale systems are, you will see that not only in Romania, people are very reluctant in doing the micro-segmentation because it's an industrial control area, it's very hard to be performed, but it has to be done. Why? Because if by any chance somebody gets into the, like it was in Electrica, and we know that, like it was in Mircea-Constantin and many other companies with a very huge impact, you have to do it no matter if you have a system from 2000 from very old. So what I'm trying to say, this is micro-segmentation resource, network segmentation. It's a clear recommendation. It's last since 30 years ago, but it's still not performed in critical companies or in normal companies, right? What was the question, sir? It was about who should make secret assessment. Would anybody, just to pass the phone to the microphone to them, has somebody any opinion? Please. One hand there or not? Okay. I think it should be a legal auditor certified by a legal body, a legal institution, national or international. And one of these big institutions, I think in Romania could be the National Cybersecurity Directorate, who could certify auditors as a second assessment if the risk issue is produced. That's my personal opinion.
And this sounds like it's supposed to be joke aside, before we move into my obligatory AI question, taking advantage of this beautiful roundtable that we have here, I wanted to take a couple of questions from the audience if there are any. Otherwise, we can talk about AI all day. Go ahead.
So just to repeat the question, I was curious also if you can touch on this little topic of the penalty to the security architecture. And you can mention also
here, I think the differences are not as visible as we might think. I think one is an enabler of the other, because you have to be able to identify and authorize whatever that endpoint or human is before. That is how you make zero trust these days. But we were just having a conversation with Ren before this and just outside. So yeah, to Dan's point, I think it's a matter of nuance, right? And one enables the other. You could probably boil down to single sign-on, the whole thing, but the story is a lot bigger, right? Going back to the principle mentioned by Yugo, never trust, always verify. It all starts with verifying the user identity. Then you move into device, posture, compliance, maybe, of that device, and then go into the least privilege access model in terms of end-to-end workflow, if you wish, for identity first or zero trust approach to cybersecurity, essentially. I don't know if that answered the question or not. It's pretty high level, but I do hope my colleagues have a bit more to add to it.
I can stress how important that is, because we've come a long way from the proverbial knock on the door. Regardless how many tools you have, the human component remains the routines that we dislike. We all know that. And the human component is associated with identity. So if that's not taken care of, then all of the existing security solutions can be bypassed, and it will be bypassed by an attacker. Whether it's the user fault here is really not relevant. It could be the one who configured the solutions, forgot something, forgot to set the policies, forgot to check some boxes, because let's be honest, there's a lot of configuration going on to establish a security environment. Or it could be the user who willingly or unwillingly, because instant conflict is a real thing nowadays, has taken some steps that jeopardize the security of the infrastructure. So identity should come first, and this record being the largest attack factor that's being used across the infrastructure nowadays.
Yeah, just a small flavor regarding this topic. For the young audience, so again, identity is extremely important. It's part of the concept of the zero trust. The point is you have to verify Mircea or Dan, even if you know that those guys know by heart that this is the guy. But if he has to put his badge to get inside the room, he has to put the badge. And no matter if it is my friend, no matter if it is a partner or something or whatever. So this is the idea of the zero trust. And sometimes this causes a lot of annoying issues into the companies. People are why. And one more flavor, this is probably one of the things that has been improved since 30 years ago, because 30 years ago multi-factor authentication wasn't, I would say, mandatory, but now it's a must, in particular for the higher sensitive area, but almost everyone.
Yeah.
What's the saying mentioned to the police?
Thank you. I would say that I think we should apply here. It's a principle that we are working on need-to-know basis. So if we are applying this principle to need-to-know basis, we can know exactly the one who are using the systems, if they should use that system or not. And at the same time, if we know who is using the system, we can, analyze the behavior of that. We can see if someone, stole the badge from Mircea, for example, and we can see movement in the system at midnight. We should know that Mircea should not be there. So by analyzing this behavior, we are able to know that we have a breach of the data. You mentioned the identified assets, and yes, it's hard for First, identify the sensitive data. Let's start with the sensitive data, maybe the HM data, the financial data, and then protect this data, and then step by step do what you had to do 5 years ago.
Not just giving a final example is about human being. You know, you're entering the company form, enters company form, and usually you can make doesn't matter, make 6 steps to the elevator, smiling of the test steps to your car, you know, not behavior. But suddenly, in one day, starting to sleep. Your steps are not okay. You do know that you are the audit surveillance companies that are working, actually working in Romania in very good things. And this is the first step regarding possibility to dress the same employee like Yugo, but it's not Yugo. It's Yugo and something more that could expose your company. I think that we have a second question there in that area.
I think the first one is there.
Yes, sorry.
Hey guys. Good topic, by the way. The cybersecurity architecture is literally has the capability of reducing costs, and there's a lifetime presentation on how you can reduce costs by 50% by switching to architecture. One of the challenges, though, right, is strictly dependent on also the sign-up. So, in order to be able to benefit from identity-based security architecture, they have single sign-on across the board. And there's at least 2 scenarios that kind of are a bit of a challenge, and I'm going to raise them to you guys. For example, onboarding suppliers without single sign-on, right? I know of a certain company that had GitHub without enterprise features because the cost was literally not double, it was like nothing like 10x. So enterprise features including single sign-on for GitHub. And there's like a number of other smaller suppliers where I saw employees using password rather than single sign-on. And internal business apps or small business apps or whatever HR app, some small tool that somebody built that uses username and password instead of single sign-on. It's kind of like the shadow ID, which is an omnipresent threat across the board in multiple organizations. Any advice on that particular area?
I can start with the shadow ID, having been identified in previous lives, of course. I think it's super important for organizations to accept shadow ID as a thing, as something that is happening, maybe even embrace it and create processes and procedures for that, so that you can bring those people that have created shadow applications into the fold. Otherwise, if you say that we don't allow shadow ID here, well, you have it, you're choosing to learn, right? In most companies, I think having openness to the fact that this is happening and having an actual process, okay, you have to go this way if you want to create your application. I think that goes that way. To your point about cost barriers, I think that's
I'm going to simplify the question. Identity-based security architecture is strictly dependent on single sign-on. A single sign-on is not 100% deployed in organizations.
true, it can be. I'm not supposed to have any opinion here.
I think institutional ideas exist even when I agree on that. This is the reality. Dragos from Seucan, you agree, but shadow ID, it's a fact. Yes, you agree. How can you automate it? If you not admit it, you'll be okay, you'll be a victim. It's not about if, it's about when. But first step is to admit that it exists and do something. I don't know what. It depends on the strategy, particular for different companies. Okay? Another question. Please.
learn, I just have to not learn internet to be secure. So how can we extend cybersecurity from work to personal life? Because as we know, the user is the most vulnerable point. The machine shouldn't fail in general, but the person can fail. It can go on the side that is not okay. So, yeah.
Thank you for this question.
For me more, actually. So we can, but we are teaching the same, even if it's for the children, for the seniors, for the companies. Take some elementary measures. I mean, if you have a device, a simple device, you have to know what to access and not what to access. You need the two-step verification code for your emails. You need to be careful when you access some sites, some websites, when you are purchasing online. I mean, all this data that it's there in the space could be at some point, as I mentioned, still built them, and they repeat the same things. So what we are doing, because some of us are very carefully at work, and then when we are at home, we are like relaxing and we forget about the common rules that we have to apply, but we have to apply in our daily life the same. We are reaching out open source of the society and everything, and this is it's good to be transparent, but at the same time we need to be aware that the danger is lurking in the dark side, and we have to have some minimum protection. So as we are building for our companies an architecture that is based on zero trust and identity first, the same principle we should apply in our daily life.
Also, if we were to sum it up, I would go with the automatic email that I get from my broker every Monday. Reminder to think before you click. I always think that the actions that you do may put you in a position that you might regret later. When we're talking personal life, there's no limit here. Some people want to share more about them, some people want to share less, and not everybody considers the implications of what they're sharing and how and who can see that information and for how long of a time it's going to be out there. And we all know a lot of cases where people have overshared and it's regretted later, and in some instances it can take years or forever to have maybe some embarrassing stuff removed associated with your person.
I would say that I had cases where it was just someone saying his time or his name on LinkedIn or Facebook, and they were compromised further. So how can I make a balance between it's okay to use the internet, but you're still a victim? So I find it very difficult to be alive on the internet and have a presence there, but also be safe.
You have to be careful. If you, we have some recommendation that said don't access suspicious link. If it's suspicion, of course, I will not access it. But some links are so well designed that we need, maybe some of you received an SMS with Adelina or something like this, because it's like, I have a friend of mine who has a daughter who is competing in some, I don't know what, dance competition or something like that, and gives me your vote. You need to think. Someone like this will send me something like this to do I really have this friend of mine who has a daughter? We do not have to be all the time in a hurry, and we need to think a little bit before access everything. But, because it's like even the teachers sometimes are victims of this, we need to know what to do when something like this is happening. All the times we need to
need to go and see if our device is associated with another ones and to disable the one that associated with our device and to call the friends and say if you received an email or a message from my side, it's not me, do not be part of this Seucan.
I'll be quick. And I just want to make sure everyone pays attention in the beginning of the comment. Do you remember what the first principle of zero trust was? And you can apply that to every aspect of your life, right? Never trust, always verify. That's how you can stay online. That's how you can stay safe online. I'm not saying it's easy, but it can become a routine.
Just one short comment. Everything you said, Georgia, should be promoted on national television. Yeah, you should understand, everybody should understand the housekeeping wives, the kindergarten, every individual, that internet is full of sticky bombs, is full of dirty things, it's nothing trustful. Not nothing, but the majority of things is full of danger. This is the message, and we should be promoted. And one comment for Jay, Scheau IT appears because we didn't follow the policies and the strategies, and it's a deviation actually from the strategies.
You are coming in your company's life. Your company's life is coming in your life. Protect your company life and you protect yourself. Apply zero trust in the company's life and in your life.
Thank you. Do we still have time for one question? I think we're kind of lunchish, but maybe one last final question from the audience?
First of all, thank you for the topic. Quite interesting, hot topic. We all know that security comes with a cost, and zero trust adds an additional layer on top of that. And of course, it's not such a pleasant topic. Each type of company, especially for smaller size and medium-sized companies. So, given the budget constraints and as well specialists, lack of specialists, which could be other strategies to convince this type of companies to adopt a zero trust strategy in a friendly budget manner? Thank you.
I promise nobody has changed hands. Recognize myself. Just one thing I wanted to say, because I have to say it, I'm kidding, but I do believe GenAI can be a very good democratizer in that space, especially when it comes to skills. I think using AI to kind of enable people will, and I've seen this myself, will save money when it comes to the skills you need to have day in day out. It's not a fancy, of course, but I look at it as a significant cost measure.
Just to flavor, so cybersecurity is a cost. Those costs, it's not an investment, it's a cost. Those costs are raising year over year. It becomes, it's estimated to be between 0.5 up to 1% from the revenues for a company, and this is extremely huge for most of for the majority of the company. But this is a cost, and this cost should be included into the P&L of each product or services. And unfortunately, it's growing year over year. Until when? We don't know. And the reason it's growing is because the attackers are getting more skilled, they're targeting big infrastructures, everything from small bureaus of 10 to 15 people nowadays getting hit, not by kids that want to test their skills, but by professional groups that are doing this at a high level, because it's all a matter of time in the end. Time is money. It's the same for the attackers as well. They are always going to low-hanging fruit. And if they can breach 100 small companies instead of one big one, then so be it. And that raises the problem of the huge gap that we're seeing in terms of preparedness in smaller infrastructures and the mindset that needs to shift from too small to be attacked and uninteresting to this could actually happen to me. And education plays an important role there. Obviously, knowing your infrastructure, knowing the right way to control access and limit breaches with the tools that you already have. And there's no perfect mix of tooling. I was going to tell you that to ensure that you're 100% safe if you buy this product. Is lying or is working themselves. The point of the matter is you need to work with what you've got, and there's always a parallel that you need to be able to make in terms of what your data is worth, because solutions, especially expensive ones, to secure your data are always going to be that. But it's, in the end, as my colleagues have also stated, a matter of risk and how you are willing to handle that risk.
And not being the low-hanging fruit, right? But thank you everyone for spending some time with us today. We're near the end of our conversation here. I just wanted to maybe start it from the opposite end. Any closing comments?
As I mentioned at the beginning, trust nobody except the police, the recommendation from the authorities, because we are trying to help you be more secure.
My closing thoughts are, we talked about zero trust as a philosophy a lot, but it's actually very actionable, right? If you boil it down to the three principles, then you can actually action on that, and you can do it starting today. It's a collective effort.
Also, I would add, it's a strategy, it's a process, it's not something you check off the list, so it needs to be thought through as a process and implemented properly, and that usually takes some time and gets some time.
So, nothing else but trust nobody, always verify, and knowledge is power. Trust nobody, always verify, even artificial intelligence.
The way to tell it to my family so that it doesn't sound as scary is trust and verify. I think that's easier to follow in some cases. But thank you all. It's been an amazing panel, an amazing podcast. Just want to say thank you and enjoy.
We thank you. Thank you. All of you.
Thank you, bye.